Hi, I'm Jenny Best with El Paso County Public Health in the Tobacco Education and Prevention Partnership. And I'm here today to talk about tobacco, nicotine, and most importantly, vaping. There's a lot of misinformation out there right now about vaping. So I'm just here to share the facts so that you can educate yourself and make the best choices for your life. Today we're going to talk through some true or false questions. So the first question we're going to ask is going to be about nicotine. So true or false, 99% of vapes contain nicotine. That is true. Almost all vapes have nicotine in them. And when we're talking about vapes, we're talking about a lot of different products these days. So they can be called electronic cigarettes, the JUUL, the Sworn. There's lots of name brand products out there right now. We're talking about the same thing. So they all fall under that category of vapes or electronic cigarettes. So what is nicotine? It's a highly addictive drug. It's derived from tobacco. It's actually found in all tobacco products, which those electronic cigarettes are considered tobacco products. It affects nearly every organ in the body. And how long do you think it takes for nicotine to reach the brain when it's inhaled? It's very quick. It takes about 10 seconds for it to reach your brain. So these products are very, very new, and there's actually no standard regulations on them right now. They don't tell the manufacturers how much nicotine they can put in them. They actually don't have to label what's in them at all. So nicotine levels range very drastically depending on the product and the brand. Most of the e-juices contain somewhere between 0 and 36 milligrams of nicotine per milliliter. However, the JUUL, has everyone heard of the JUUL? It's actually the biggest product out on the market, and they actually own 70% of the market share right now. They use a salt-based nicotine, which is different than the traditional e-juices, which is a free-based nicotine. These JUULs are pod-based systems. They actually all contain nicotine, so you cannot buy a nicotine-free JUUL. And as we said, the average e-juice contains somewhere between 0 and 36 milligrams per milliliter of nicotine. These JUULs are advertised as 5% strength. Does that sound like very much to you? Sure doesn't to me. They actually contain 59 milligrams per milliliter, or the equivalent to a pack of cigarettes, which is very high. And some of the newer products, the Sworn and the Fix, contain even more. So these pod-based systems, again, they always contain nicotine, and they have very high nicotine amounts in them. Back to that salt-based nicotine, that actually also hits your brain a lot quicker as well than the free-based. So the one reason why they use salt-based is so that they can pack more nicotine into the pod, as well as so that they can have it hit you a little bit stronger and a little bit quicker. The next question we're going to ask is about addiction. True or false? Nicotine can be as addictive as heroin and cocaine. That's actually true as well. Tobacco, which contains nicotine, can be harder to quit than heroin or cocaine. So let's talk a little bit about addiction in the brain. Does anyone know what age the brain stops developing? It's about 25 years old. So the definition of addiction is the psychological and physical inability to stop consuming a chemical, a drug, an activity, or a substance, despite knowing the harmful effects of it. So during the teen years, the front part of the brain, it's still developing. And that development happens until about the age of 25. And that front part of the brain is the part that controls attention, learning, mood, and decision-making. We also know that the brain is very vulnerable during teen years, and it's more susceptible to addiction. So if you start using substances as a teen, you are more likely to become a lifelong user of that substance, as well as to become addicted to other substances. Do you think tobacco companies know how addictive nicotine is? They absolutely do. And actually, this quote is from Philip Morris, who's one of the largest tobacco companies in the world, from 1991. So an old quote. However, they knew it then, and they certainly know it now, that how addictive nicotine is, and they're adding extra nicotine to those products so that teenagers can get addicted to them. Next question. True or false? Tobacco companies specifically market their products to youth. That's actually true as well. So tobacco companies, they use a lot of different strategies to target youth. How do you think they're doing that? Here's some ways. Flavors. So right now there's thousands of flavors on the market of these electronic products. Fruity flavors, sweet flavors, cotton candy, fruity pebbles, gummy bear, unicorn dust, you name it, there's a flavor out there for it. The packaging, so the packaging they're using is very bright colored. They're packaging it like other substances. So I've seen apple juice packaging for electronic juice. As you can see here, gum, the same packaging as Camel cigarettes. And then certainly advertisements. So JUUL, again, is the most highly used product on the market. And their advertising tactic is to say that it's for adult smokers to quit smoking. However, as you can see by this ad, it's very brightly colored, beautiful young woman advertising this product. Certainly doesn't look like an adult that's trying to quit. And money. Does anyone know how much money is spent on advertising in one day? $26 million is spent on advertising. That's more than $1 million an hour to sell these products to youth. And why are they spending so much money to advertise these products? Because we know that 50% of adult smokers are going to die, and they have to replace their smokers with young people your age. Because we do know that 90% of adult smokers started smoking before the age of 18. All right, next question. True or false, vapes produce a harmless water vapor? That's actually false. It's not a vapor, and it's definitely not harmless. It's actually an aerosol. So vapor comes from the vape companies, and that's a marketing tactic that they use, because vape sounds harmless or healthy, doesn't it? It's actually very harmful to the user and to those around them breathing it in. So the heating up of the electronic juices is what creates the aerosol. So let's talk a little bit more about what a vapor and an aerosol are. A vapor is what comes off the end of a teapot. It's going to evaporate. It's harmless. You can breathe it in. It's not going to do any damage. An aerosol actually is chemicals and fine particles suspended in a gas, like a hairspray or a spray paint. And it's very harmful, and it does leave residue behind. I'm going to do a quick demonstration to show you the difference between vapor and aerosol. This water, it's just water. I just filled it up. If I spray it, as you can see, it evaporates into the air. If I were to spray this on my hair, what would happen? My hair would get wet, right? And in about 30 minutes when it dries, would you be able to tell that I sprayed my hair with water? No, because it's just water, it's vapor, it evaporates, you can't tell, it doesn't leave anything behind. The vape companies use vapor as a marketing tactic. Now this is an aerosol, it's hairspray. There's lots of chemicals in here, hydrofluorocarbon, lots of chemicals that I can't even say. So this is an aerosol. If I were to spray this on my hair, what would happen? Yeah, it's gonna leave some residue behind, right? It's meant to hold and shape my hair. And that's what aerosols have. So they definitely leave residue behind. If you were to look at my hair in 30 minutes, you would know that I sprayed it with hairspray. There's still a residue that's left behind, and that's what's intended. So imagine that as it's going into your lungs. That aerosol is leaving a residue behind, just like hairspray does on your hair. So what chemicals are found in vaping? Have you ever heard of formaldehyde? It's actually used to preserve dead bodies, and it does cause cancer. Acetone is also found in vape products, and that's used as a fingernail polish remover. And a lot of these chemicals can also be found in cigarette smoke. Next question, true or false, e-juice is just flavored liquid? That is false. E-juice contains nicotine, as we said, and many other cancer-causing chemicals. So some of the common ingredients in e-juice, as we already said, we found nicotine in 99% of those vapes that are tested. There's also a lot of artificial flavorings. So propylene glycol, vegetable glycerin, diacetyl, and benzoic acid are common flavoring additives in these vape products. You may have heard of propylene glycol or vegetable glycerin, and those are actually food additives that are found in food. And that's typically safe when you're digesting that into your digestive tract, into your stomach. It's when it's inhaled into your lungs and when it's heated up that those chemicals become dangerous. And it's also important to know that it's not safe to drink e-juice. It is actually poisonous and can cause death. So as we mentioned, diacetyl, that's a common component that's added into e-juices. It actually comes from the name from microwave popcorn factory back in the day. A bunch of microwave popcorn factory workers were getting this lung disease and they couldn't quite figure it out. They directly linked that to the flavoring diacetyl. It's actually been removed from microwave popcorn, but it can still be found in e-juices. It causes an irreversible lung scarring of the lung tissue. So some of the other health effects that have been seen are ear, eye, nose, and throat irritations. We've also seen a lot of bloody noses occurring in those that are vaping. As we already talked about, the brain development, the brain doesn't stop developing until around the age 25. So youth that are introducing these products at a young age are really disrupting their brain development. Heart and blood flow, so certainly we know that nicotine causes restriction of the blood vessels, and so that can increase your blood pressure, can be a risk for heart attack or heart disease. And then lungs and breathing. So certainly those irritants coming from that aerosol that is leaving the residue behind in your lungs can definitely cause some lung issues as well as popcorn lung. We also know that there's lots of cases out there right now of this severe lung disease. So we are still staying tuned to what's happening with those folks. We do know though, however, a lot of the long-term effects, we don't know what those are yet. These vapes are very new, and so in 50 years, we'll definitely know what's gonna happen. So we're still doing some research on what the long-term effects are of using a vape product. True or false, vapes can explode, causing severe injury. That is true. Although it's very rare, these products can explode and they do cause life-threatening injuries. So as we already talked about, there's no standard regulations for manufacturers. So those that are making these products, there's no one telling them how to make it, and they're also very new, so they're not being made to the highest standard. Typically, the explosions are caused from an improper use of the device or the battery overheating, oftentimes from charging the battery too long or using the wrong charger. They've definitely caused lots of second and third degree burns. We've heard of blindness, injury, and we've actually heard of death as well from these devices exploding. True or false, you cannot use tobacco products at school, even if you are a parent or teacher over the age of 18. That is true. Tobacco products, including vapes and JUULs and any other e-cigarette, can never be used on school property by anyone. So this is part of the Tobacco-Free Schools policy, which is a state law, and that states that you cannot, no one, even if you're over the age of 18, can use these products on school property. And that's before school, during school, after school, on holidays, breaks, over the summer. It also applies to any rented facilities, so vehicles, or if a school rents out a building for a dance, you cannot use those products there either. And again, it applies to everyone. So students, staff, visitors, anyone is not allowed to use these products on school grounds. And again, the law does include vapes and JUULs. Which also leads us into the Teen Tobacco Use Prevention Act, or TTUPA, which states that no one under the age of 18 is allowed to possess these products anywhere. So certainly every school has their own rules about possessing these products, but the state law does say that electronic cigarettes, and that includes even if it's just your device and there's no nicotine pod in it, that is not legal for anyone under the age of 18 to possess that. And certainly you could get in trouble at school, and you can also get ticketed out in the community. And possession, just so you know, means holding it. So if someone asks you to hold their product, now you're in possession of it. Last one here. So true or false, doctors recommend using vapes or JUULs to help people quit smoking. That is false. Vapes and JUULs are not recommended by doctors to help someone quit smoking. And we do know that youth who start vaping are 4 times more likely to start smoking within 1 year. So there are some approved methods out there. And these methods are approved by the Food and Drug Administration, and they are the nicotine gum, the patch, the lozenge. Doctors can also write prescriptions to help people quit. There's also a free resource out there called the Colorado Quit Line, and that's a free resource for anyone aged 12 and up. And the Colorado Quit Line offers those 3 nicotine replacement therapies as well as counseling. So if you're 12 and up, you can get 5 free counseling sessions. And if you're over the age of 18, you can get free nicotine replacement therapies to help you quit. Also, certainly if you need some help quitting, seek help from an adult or someone that you trust, or talk to your doctor about helping you. And the Colorado Quit Line phone number is 1-800-QUIT-NOW, or certainly they have a new texting program so you can get online and get signed up for that at coquitline.org. To summarize what we just talked about, here's a quick video to show you the facts.
People have been smoking for at least 7,000 years, but it wasn't until the 1800s that cigarettes became the smoke of choice, after machines were developed to mass produce them. 200 years later, in 2003, the electronic cigarette was invented in China, and since then the use of e-cigarettes, also called vaping, has grown exponentially around the world. E-cigarettes are electronic devices that vaporize a flavored liquid. They all used to look like cigarettes, but now they come in many shapes and sizes. Many look like pens or small boxes called mods. What they all have in common is 1. A power source, usually a lithium battery. 2. An atomizer, which heats the e-liquid. 3. E-liquid or e-juice, which usually contains flavors and nicotine. And 4. A cartridge or tank, which is filled with e-liquid. Heating the e-liquid creates a cloud of vapor that looks like smoke, but without a lot of the lethal components contained in tobacco smoke. Many people assume e-cigarettes are safer than traditional cigarettes because they don't burn anything or create tar in your lungs. But it took almost 7,000 years for humans to realize that tobacco causes lung cancer, throat and mouth cancer, causes heart attacks and strokes, and damages the lungs. E-cigs, meanwhile, have only been around a little over a decade, so there just hasn't been enough time to figure out what effects they'll have on your body. We do know that e-cigarettes deliver nicotine, just like the traditional cigarettes, causing increased heart rate and blood pressure. Nicotine also has powerful effects on the brain. It releases rewarding neurotransmitters in the brain, like dopamine, and changes brain chemistry. It is a stimulant, making people feel more alert, but when it goes away, people crave it even more. It can interfere with the body's own natural ability to make dopamine, and soon the user needs nicotine just to feel normal. The developing brain of teenagers is the most vulnerable to these effects. The powerful addictive nature of nicotine is so high that it's comparable to heroin and cocaine. Besides nicotine, e-cigarettes contain chemical solvents. When heated very high by some of the new e-cigarette devices, these solvents can be transformed into formaldehyde, which is a carcinogen. It causes cancer. These observations are concerning, but we really do not know what the long-term effects from inhaling these chemicals into your lungs will be. E-cigs contain many other chemicals to generate enticing flavors. In fact, there are almost 8,000 different flavors available today, so we don't know very much about many of them. We do know that some of the butter flavorings contain diacetyl, which is famous for causing popcorn lung. Popcorn lung is a disease called bronchiolitis obliterans, which is basically an irreversible scarring and destruction of the delicate lung tissue that can kill you. Strawberry and other healthy-sounding fruit flavors have been found to be cytotoxic and potentially cancer-causing as well. Vaping devices, or specifically the lithium batteries inside them, may explode unpredictably. Although uncommon, this happens frequently enough that e-cigarettes have been banned from luggage on airplanes. Unpredictable explosions have occurred in people's faces and mouths and resulted in serious injuries, including blindness. With these potential risks of e-cigarettes, the addictive nicotine, the exploding batteries, the carcinogenic liquids, why would any company want you to use them? Sales of e-cigarettes approach $8 billion per year and are increasing. The truth is, tobacco cigarettes kill about 50% of people who use them. So tobacco companies, known as Big Tobacco, need to keep recruiting young people to become addicted in order to stay in business. Here are some actual documented quotes from tobacco executives. "We don't smoke that shit, we just sell it. We reserve the right to smoke for the young, the poor, and the stupid. The base of our business is the high school student. The fragile self-image of the young person needs all the support it can get. Smoking may appear to enhance that self-image. Studies show that when people start to smoke in their teens, they become addicted and stay smokers as they grow older. Even those who swear they will never become addicted. Many of the same strategies that Big Tobacco used to hook your grandparents into smoking tobacco cigarettes have simply been modified and are being used today with an e-cig in place of a tobacco cig." E-cigarettes come in candy and dessert flavors like Skittles, gummy bears, and vanilla cupcake, directly aimed at teens. Ads always show thin, beautiful people vaping. Even the strategic use of humor is being successfully used to get customers on their side. The bottom line is that we are all faced with important personal choices every day. We don't yet know everything we need to know to make informed decisions about many things. But we can resist being manipulated. Take your time when making your own personal decisions. It can make all the difference.
Thank you for watching. I hope you learned some facts about vaping. If you need some more information, please go to www.tobaccofreeco.org.